try. All right. Holacracy Practice Guild on January 13th, 2023. So, okay. So we started with the check-in, and yeah, so now you can just grab a sticky on the upper right corner if you like, and type in any topics that come to mind, any tensions, curiosities, comments, whatever. Anything goes. Just yeah. Are you?
Hola. Opa. Déjala que suba. No voy a parar. Funny thing about this song is that this is a really famous Argentinian songwriter and singer, and he claims that Bruno Mars has stolen his beat for Downtown Funky.
Serious.
And yeah, and actually they do sound like a lot.
Yeah, I never trusted that Bruno Mars guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dennis, may I suggest that you share your screen so maybe we can have the Miro here and the recording as well?
Fine. If that's better, then I can do that. All right. Cool. So let's see. We got two topics other than my last stickies that I had there from last time. So let's start with Peter. Circle lead, what's new?
Yeah, so the organization I'm in, PowerChef People, I recently officially shifted to Holacracy Constitution 5.0. And well, one obvious difference to me is that certainly there's no accountabilities anymore on the role, like and the way it is defined. And so I've been looking a little bit in the Constitution what it says about circle leads. And so I was wondering, is there any actual differences in the way a circle lead, so inside the circle, operates compared to Constitution 4, where it was what was the old name again?
Lead link.
Lead link, yes, lead link. Thank you. So that's my question. Is there any big differences or subtle differences there that I would need to take into account?
Subtle difference, I would say, is that you know, in V5 the budgeting process is has a process, you know, by default, and so that means the leading, I mean, the leading, the circle lead still has some kind of extra privilege in terms of taking back an escalation in the process. That's I understand it. But other than that, so he doesn't need to be asked, well, in that sense. So if he wants to prevent somebody spending money, or she, that circle lead would have to escalate a spending authorization request, and can take it back. And I think no other can take it back except right. So if that's other than that, basically role assignments still the domain, I believe. So that
my feeling is that this is at times there are more potential things that it could do, but it's not within the role description. So it doesn't have a role description that, as I think there was before, it was pretty much purpose, domains, and accountabilities. Now it's like the circle may, so it's like the circle lead may want to do this, or it has the possibility to engage into this, but it's not there's this other type of thing that is a potential to do something, but it's not necessarily within the role description of the circle lead anymore. Circle lead may.
Right, so that's why the accountabilities are removed, because the accountabilities is really what can other roles expect from the role, right? But
so it's more based on, it's more working, operating under its own purpose, kind of, which is the same as the role, in the upper,
so the accountabilities on the role of the circle or the so the accountabilities are still on the circle itself, right? So those are the accountabilities on the circle lead, unless they have been differentiated onto other roles within the circle.
It would have to catch them, right? If it hasn't been differentiated, it would fall into there. I mean, everybody could expect it to catch it from a lead link, circle lead. But that hasn't changed. Basically, it was the same before.
Yeah, that was the same. Yeah.
But
so other than the spending thing, there are no actual differences.
I haven't noticed any in practice yet, but that may also be like habitual energy. I mean, it's largely, I think, for beginners, more like it's different, I guess, if they read the role description and it's kind of, it's almost like empty. Then so the idea was to point people to or to not over-interpret the role of circle lead in a way, or to project all kinds of stuff onto that role, or treat it as a classic manager. And visually now it's kind of very like minimalistic, and that's so all the content has been moved to the constitution, and it's just kind of the container almost. So the circle role equivalency that's also kind of an idea, I think, that's behind this. So they wanted to make the construct you cannot equate a role in a circle yet, but it's almost, so it feels more this like the same thing.
Right. Okay.
There's an article by Chris Cohen about this, where he tries to put it together in a format that you would understand as a regular role description. So that might be interesting to you. It's pretty much catalyzing everything over there.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll have a look.
A call, or what do you say? Is it a resource?
No, it's a blog post, I think, of some sort.
Okay. Cool. I'll have a look at that. Yeah, it's a bit subtle, but it's interesting novelty in that constitution. Okay, so that covers your attention.
Yeah, absolutely. It's clear now. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Test pre-adoption.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna make use of our time here for something that I wrote to you specifically, Dennis. Hi. So I'm curious about your experience using some kind of culture assessment test before launching an adoption of Holacracy in a company, and what do you take into consideration for when it comes to organizational culture, and if you ever used that, if it was of help, or if it wasn't of help. And my hypothesis was that in some points, the fact that there's the CEO bringing in the idea of deploying Holacracy, it's just a solution for a problem that CEO had, maybe not the whole company, or maybe they were not aware of that problem. So when this Holacracy thing comes to everyone, I think that sometimes, and this is by experience in my own company here, people say like, we didn't have any problem before. Why are you bringing all this? So how to, not trying to prevent, but trying to foresee in advance if with some kind of test, you can try to better direct or even to decide not to go for an adoption in a company to adopt this one. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. To kind of figure out whether or not it's feasible or would stick or would kind of be rejected by company culture or there would be resistance against it, right? So I must say I haven't done that yet. Like it would be I think you mentioned spiral dynamics or something like that, values or what else could we do? I mean, maybe Cook-Reuters leadership maturity framework assessment or whatever. It's also so I think the value of that would be to if I would do that, I would do it with the top leader. That would be kind of, but not necessarily with everybody. I mean, for that it could be interesting. But I think the whole level or developmental frameworks are very easily misunderstood, and people feel judged and pigeonholed, and they misuse the concepts to kind of put themselves usually 2 levels above the actual levels. Kind of, that's how they estimate themselves. So given them the concepts, or I wouldn't cater to that. I wouldn't want to. If somebody was curious, especially leadership, and I mean, then sure, why not? You can do a test, but I think what really matters is, I mean, if you know these models, you would get a sense of where is that person when they talk to you, like where are they coming from, what is driving them? Is it just a tool, or like Holacracy is it just a means to an end, or is there something more? Do they vibe with it? Do they totally get the potential so that they even want to do it like you, like even though people may complain about it or something, like because they are so like convinced that this is kind of whatever superior or more advanced or something like that, then the test wouldn't help you because they want it anyway. So, and the only thing you can find out is that they're not there yet, and then you would have to stop it. But I don't know. I mean, Lalou pretty much says what needs to be in place is for the owners or the founders of the company to be protecting the change, and I think that's true. So there's two possibilities I see here. They protect it from the sense of usefulness of the outcomes, or they protect it additionally because they actually are themselves coming from that level where kind of Holacracy is coming from, in a sense, like, or approaching that, like they're there and they get it. They really get it because they are systemic thinkers, and they see how that would provide value and be better, even though people in the company may not be able to grasp it fully yet. And the beautiful thing, I think, about Holacracy is it is a practice that is coming from that level, definitely, and it encodes those behaviors from that level, like integration of perspectives, and kind of a higher version of all ourselves, like us on our best day is the rules kind of codified. And so if we practice that, we fall back to the level of practice, which is kind of that scaffolding that the structure gives us, whether we know why that's good or not. If we just fucking follow the rules, then we will benefit from those processes because they're coming from a higher level. They have greater legitimacy, they have a deeper depth, and they enable wiser choices choices collectively, even though individually I may not be there yet. And I may still feel the benefit of that. And it may create an evolutionary impulse in me to rise up to that level and get pulled up by yeah, if everybody, if we're not, you know, undisciplined in meetings and we're jumping all over each other, but we're listening to each other, we hear each other out, we really focus on somebody's tension and resolve it to their satisfaction. That's a deeply honoring process. That's all kind of passively embodied through the process, and it's kind of role modeling it for us and acting as an attractor to pull us up to that level, I would argue. And it also mirrors back our ego whenever we want to, you know, have better ideas and want to help, or, you know, all these things, or change impulses, you know, are not anchored in tensions to be processed for the organization, but it's just personal tensions, and it just, you know, mirrors that back and says, hey, look, this is a personal tension. You know, we help you figure it out, but not in this space. This is the organization space, and you differentiate that. So the differentiation dissolves the fusion, so you can differentiate those and then integrate those on a higher level if you want to, or if you want to. So it at least gives a possibility of that. And yeah, so testing people up front, I don't know. I think it would just confuse them. Or maybe they would be like, oh, why is my result that I'm not the highest level at the highest level of this pyramid? And they may be whatever disappointed. And if you then connect that to, and that's why you cannot practice holacracy, that may be a wrong assessment. And B, because it may still be useful and have benefits if they acted, you know, enacted the processes. If it just stuck to the rules, I always say to do holacracy well, you need to be, you know, amber level. You need to be able to follow the rules. Okay, if you want to do it well, better. Okay, it's of course better the more capacities you have online. But I would claim that if you are able to follow rules and not break protocol at every possibility, then you can derive benefits from it. Even though more creative, you may not, you know, live all the autonomy that is possible in holacracy, like in an achiever way, or even in a green way, like in a pluralist way. You may not fully appreciate what's in there, but you still, you know, have the structure and the clarity, appreciate that. And the great thing is that every level finds something that it can appreciate about holacracy, like the rules and structures. Blue loves that, or amber, or whatever. Then you have orange achiever. Okay, you have options. You can, you know, it doesn't matter how you do it. You can do it your own way. It's autonomy. You can be driven. You can, you know, bring in your ideas and so on, and you can achieve in that sense. And for green, yeah, of course, it loves that everybody's being heard and every perspective is being considered. And I guess, well, for teal, it's self-evident anyway that this is a good system. So there's something in there for every level, in a way.
Right. And okay, yeah, I get it, and I think it makes sense that you can adapt the speech of the deployment to each of the levels of, or colors, or you call it. And then as an implementator yourself, what type of signs do you look for when it comes to, you know, maybe red flags that will directly make you think that it will be a stopper, you know, a game stopper? Kind of a, I don't know, these people are, you know, they don't have even half hour a day or a week to even consider doing something different. They're not they are being compensated minimally, and they're not eager to do anything else outside of their contracts or anything. Leon, did you look for that at any way?
Well, I would look for, is this company under operational stress and pressure already?
Yes.
Because then it's like very unlikely to stick people, because it is some kind of, first of all, it's some effort to learn, there's some effort to change habits, and if people don't feel like they have the mental wiggle room to do that because they're
Right.
like, okay, we have to meet our numbers or whatever, or we're
Right.
going under, or the costs are too high or whatever, then it is a difficult precondition. So ideally, people come from things are already working reasonably well, but they want to do a long-term, they have a long-term view of the company. They want to, they're farsighted. They want to put in the right structures because they know they will grow, for example, and they want to lay down the tracks before that happens, so it can scale more organically and not like ruptures and all that. So that is a pro sign if you have the sense they are farsighted in that way, and they really maybe take a book like Reinventing Organization and study it to find out how we can operate even better, kind of like, versus,
so that you're saying that
so one idea, if they view it as a quick fix, okay, then it's probably gonna be unsuccessful, because the moment they run into difficulties, they will probably say, okay, fuck this, let's micromanage anyway, or we're under pressure, and then resolve to their habits and their especially their survival instincts, and it may be a good idea. Even I wouldn't even say it's wrong, because at least they know what they're doing there. They know their old behavior, even though it may or may not work, but they don't know the holacracy stuff yet, and they don't know how to operate, how to use the tension to drive it through the system and process it in a constructive way yet. Like, what are all the levers and what are the pathways and all that stuff? They don't have a clear picture of it yet. So they will probably, under pressure, throw it out, or don't double down on the practice, but or explain to themselves why we're doing it, but this time it was really important to make an exception because, and then it's always these personal exceptions, these individual exceptions, and then everybody's like, okay, are we doing this or are we not doing this? I thought we were doing this. Did we sign the constitution or not? Should I bother learning this or should I not bother learning this? Because obviously management itself doesn't care. I mean, these are all problems that you encounter.
Yeah. Okay, I'm getting some pointers here, and I'm going to use the recording to come back to this afterwards, so I can pick up your words more precisely. And I think that what I was also trying to understand here was, I understand the operational stress that they might be going through, or if they're going through another big change already, right? Kind of what happened with the Great Plains Aviation, that they wanted to become an FPE and also become holacratic, and they crushed. The first 2 weeks they crashed.
Too much, and then they want to operate. Then they have to operate a business, fucking. They have to just make sure that the planes land and fly safely, and that's right. A lot. I mean,
and that's what I'm saying. And at the same time, also when I'm introducing these topics to new people, and maybe it's because of the way that we work in Argentina, but kind of a employment here could be tricky when you're an employee, because mainly the law, it's in your favor. So you can go become an employee, get your contract, and then you can decide to break the contract and you get money. They actually pay you money. They have to pay you money, a lot of money. Why? Because it's just like that. It's always the employee, it's always right. Employee, it's always right. So there's a big problem here with people that don't give a fuck about anything, because they know that if they actually get the contract, they will get some money in the end. But I'm saying this because
whether or not
also happens.
Let me understand, whether or not they follow a holacracy protocol or what.
Yeah, just in general. This is in general. But the thing is that what I found also was that some people said, all right, so I'm in this position, right? And the company decides to go holacratically. So now you're going to ask me to be fully responsible of the decisions that I'm making, to take authority on the lead on the roles that I'm having. to have some kind of managerial type of decision making when it comes to certain type of stuff. But you know, I'm collecting still the same. The conditions are still shitty. So why should I care? You know, why should I even bother all of this? If you know, I think that the whole approach is that not to give them better tools only, but to give them better reasons for engaging into this, I guess. Because my hypothesis again is that if you have a shitty working environment and you're not compensating people accordingly, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, now you have to do, you know, make more, to take more, make more decisions or whatever. Yeah, you have to lead, and it's like, I don't want to lead. You know, I'm being paid for following.
Yes, yeah, I think it's really a question of the whole paradigm or mindset behind it. So how do, first of all, how, and maybe that's what you were trying to get into with your analysis thing, the level analysis, because if you feel like I'm a victim in this company anyway, and I think that is very far away from the kind of the world that Holacracy steers towards, where the kind of the drama triangle is kind of made obsolete by the rules and practices, where you see, okay, actually I'm not the victim here, I'm here by my own choice, and and I'm here because I want to fill roles, and taking over roles is voluntary. Nobody can force me to. Of course, I have a work contract, but that's a different agreement, and so on. Yeah, I think that there's a whole mindset behind that, and people would first have to understand how this makes their life better, in the sense of, okay, maybe they haven't learned to enjoy autonomy at work because they've never been enabled to make autonomous decision, and even though they make autonomous decisions outside of work, like all the time, they're just not used to do that at work. And what they associate with making decisions is being susceptible to blame, or being blamed for making wrong decisions, and being kind of scolded, or you know, and then they don't want their head to stick out in a way. They don't want to stick out their neck. But it's a whole defensive kind of attitude they're taking. So they would first have to learn how Holacracy can help them find more meaning in work. But I guess it's a developmental process. You can't expect people to just flip the switch, because people are cynical. They're cynical in these companies, and once they're in the cynical mindset, they don't trust this. They don't think it can be that good. So they would have to ease into that and make positive experiences, and actually learn how that can make their life easier, and help them resolve the tension. And then they have to decide in themselves, okay, I could play this victim game longer, or I actually stop telling myself the victim story, because it's getting more and more difficult to justify, because hey, you got all the fast pathways. Sounds like attention. Have you thought about bringing it to a meeting? And you know, there's nobody to complain to anymore, really, because you can do stuff about it. You can do things about it, unless management steps in and, you know, breaks the rules of the constitution. Then people get extra cynical, because then it's like, yeah, we're doing Holacracy, and you should be like self-driven and so on. But then whenever you are and take responsibility and own your work, then somebody steps in and takes over the steering wheel whenever they want, and justify it because they can, because they ultimately are the owners, and they employ you and not the other way around. And there are still two classes of people, even in Holacracy. So that's why I think the level of development of the leadership really matters in that way, so that they want to catch themselves when they do that, and they really are interested in changing that pattern in themselves. And that is I think a higher level specification or marker. If they do want that, then I think they are interested in making it stick, and are not just in for kind of superficial benefits of that the model may bring, which I think is not super sustainable. It may still be enough to start the practice, but it probably, if they don't also have the other type of motivation that makes them want to be a better leader, a leader that is leading differently, that is leading on a peer-to-peer basis, that is using a system and not personal power, and all those subtle distinctions. If they're not interested in that, then I think it's not really sustainable for a long time. So at least they would have to, because others, okay, whatever, they can be elsewhere on the developmental spectrum. But if the owner says, okay, that's the game we're playing here, if you don't want to play along, cool, you can look for work elsewhere, it's fine. Let us know early, because that's the way we're playing here, a little bit like the Zappos move. Then it's a self-selection. Okay, cool. We want only those play that want to play this game. But it's clear this is not going away. This is not going anywhere. This is staying. And so that's when, if the people get that sense, then they actually make an effort to learn it, because they understand, okay, do I want to change job? Probably not. So let's see what this thing is. Because before that, and that's why the ratification is such an important signal. Before they notice that there's really a commitment, they probably won't bother making the effort, because why would they? Because it may just be a fad of management that goes away after 3 months, and then they could it would have all been in vain to learn all these different habits and unlearn whatever you learned before, and so on. So yeah.
Can I add something else here, or should we stop it? Yep. It's interesting that most of the times adoptions of the framework comes in companies that are not starting up. So it's not that they're starting their business with Holacracy, but they're transitioning to Holacracy. And while there might be a lot of people saying like, yeah, sure, let's do it, I want to do it, because maybe they're comfortable on their works and their jobs, and they're doing stuff, and then all of a sudden they decide that with practice, this is not what I like, but they still are really good at what they're doing in their jobs, right? So what's your take on people that are kind of really doing their work good, but when it comes to related to other people in roles or doing a Holacracy game, they're just not there, Because I know that with Holacracy, you can even have a position where you say like, yeah, this role is, you just need to do whatever we tell you that you need to do, or something like that, It's
well, if people are in this passive stance that they want to be told what to do, there's a way we can make this happen. No problem. In Holacracy, we can emulate that just by saying, okay, we write a role definition where we have your accountabilities, and then we request all these projects that you should give yourself in that role if you took your purpose seriously and pursued it proactively. Then you would give yourself these projects that we're now going to give you. Other roles can just request those things from that role. Ultimately, it's not the ideal way of leading a role. And probably after a while they notice that others are just giving themselves projects that make sense for them, they would figure out, hey, if they can do it, why? And I think I could do this. Everybody else is so empowered and self-authorized in a way, or kind of authorized by the system. Why shouldn't I, follow this initiative that comes to mind as as being reasonable for my role. Why not? Everybody else is doing it all the time. I'm not asking this time around. I will just do it. At a certain point, I think this learning will dawn upon even the staunchest resistors if the others are also role modeling it for them.
Right.
So it's not, but you can be, you can work in the same, there are people that aren't really, like, as you said, they're not taking initiative necessarily. They're waiting to be told what to do. And they're often also, if you want to take the developmental levels, okay, they're often maybe at Amber or something, or expert level. And you would, and they're doing really valuable work for the company, really executing stuff, but they want to know what they execute, and they don't want to rock the boat, and they want to be safe, feel safe, and all that good stuff. So yeah, why not? I mean, then just, if you're a circle leader of the circle where that role is, just ask those projects from that role if they are not. And you can also tell them, hey, if you don't know what you should work on, bring it in as attention, and we can come up with stuff. And the tactical, no problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm getting what I needed here. I also have another example, but it's also mixed in with the FP framework. So not sure if it's the right place to do it. But yeah, I can move along on my end here.
Yeah, so I didn't really, I have some, don't really have prepared. These are kind of dummy tensions here. I can talk about these things. I don't know if they're interesting to you. We have topics about, domains and policies, or evolving the language of the process, both of which I have previously presented on in the Holacracy community. I don't know, is there any of these that you find interesting to learn more about?
Or there's another one here that we can maybe pick up again.
Yeah, please just put it on the current topic.
Yeah. All right.
But Dennis, could you stop screen sharing, because I only see very little stamp. Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So one of the main discussions that I'm having lately with different people is about how humanizing or dehumanizing is to work in a holacratic environment. And while I do have a claim about this, and maybe I want to try it out with you, maybe to hear your thoughts about it, and maybe to help me come up with a stronger speech about it, even though I know that you're going to tell me why you need to convince people about this and everything, but just hear me out. Every time that I'm trying to do this in a holacratic environment, I get this, why you want to do that? Why do you care about what other people think? I said, okay, I do have my reasons. So here goes. The fact that holacracy is decoupling the person from the role has different type of benefits. The first one is that it's moving away from personal power. So it's not the person who holds the power anymore. It's distributed in roles. So by using roles, you are helping this decoupling of power over, as we call it, right? The personal power over. That's one. The other one is talking about taking it personally or not personally, right? Or taking about the mafia point of view, where it says it's just business. When you are working in role and you separate yourself from that, you are, in a sense, helping express a purpose in the world, right? And that's what's calling you mainly, my guess, that's what's calling you to do the work of that organization, besides the fact that being compensated and getting you closer to your ideal of how you want to live your life. But when you're there, you're energizing a role that it's owned by the company, and the company does not own people. So by working a role, you are actually accepting the game of coming in and out of different constructs that the company is putting together for expressing the purpose of the company in the world. So that's also another benefit in my eyes, at least, that whatever you do when you're doing work, it's not personal. It's not personal in the sense that it's not against you. If you're working and you process intentions with other roles, doesn't necessarily mean that it's against you. Of course, there's dimensions of tension processing, right? You have the interpersonal, you have the organizational, you have the governance. We all pretty much know Christiana's work and Peter's work regarding language of spaces. But I would claim that the main differentiation is that it's allowing you to do work without needing necessarily to fall under the interpersonal tensioning between people working there. Something like this. It's just three like that.
Yeah.
The ideas that I have.
Yeah.
So
what do you want, feedback on that, or
yeah, feedback. What do you think about this and other ideas about it?
Is that a response to the claim that it's dehumanizing, or what is,
Yeah.
what is this? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, yes, and I would also take care to frame it in a way that you say you don't speak about separating role and soul, but rather differentiating.
differentiating.
Yes, I think it's subtle, but it's can be powerful, because otherwise it really feels like ripping apart, and it's not the point. The point is really to distinguish, be able to distinguish, and you kind of dissolve the fusion, the unconscious fusion, to come to a conscious differentiation and a conscious integration, or interpenetration even, of the two things, because they're always co-present. Like, I'm in role, but I'm also here as a person at the same time, and both these contexts are there, and it's just a matter of awareness and what we focus on at a given moment. I would totally support the idea of work being, or like tension processing, taking out, and holacracy relieves a lot of interpersonal drama, because you really know it's role conflicts and not personal conflicts. Maybe there may be aspects of personal conflicts, but if you can deduct the amount of drama that comes from role conflicts, then you have deducted 80% of the, or more, of the conflict potential, and it leaves you purely, leaves you with organizational problems to be solved, and then you have your personal things, and we can even create containers for that, or offer in a good or a conscious organization. Practicing holacracy usually does create containers for these other tensions too, whether it be a people circle, or some coach role, or some mediation role, or whatever, or some kind of culture role or whatnot. And other aspects of the humanity of holacracy, well, read the blog post under the same name by Brian. I think he nicely summarizes a few good talking points that you could also use. One of which is that the dignity of the process. We already mentioned that we don't have to, it's not the loudest voice that wins or something, but it's really about taking serious every tension and letting people speak. And you have, even the quiet types can make their contribution, and without being kind of bullied or whatnot. But it's really appreciative, and you're really being asked, do you get, do you have what you need, or what do you need, and did you get what you need, which is super appreciative of also the person, not just the role, but I think it's also the person feels it too. If you're being the center of attention of the circle for a while, and everybody has a chance to get that attention and other people's help and thoughts and so on, I think that's doing something to people. And then you, of course, you do have, the human does show up also even in the process. You have check-in rounds. I mean, often companies, that's new for them. It's a new thing, and they like it immediately. because they see, okay, this is a way to give a flashlight to the human side of people,
Right.
of the situation. And it's not just a business meeting. Yes, it's the business meeting, but we quickly check in with everyone, and that's also pretty appreciative.
I
Yeah.
found the article that he mentioned.
Yes, the humanity of holacracy from Brian. Yeah, so all these points, I think, and it's work for grown-ups, because people, we trust you to be able to take care of your own stuff, of your own, first of all, your interpersonal stuff, and we trust you. You are able to process your own tensions. Let me just open the door here.
You do. Go solve your tensions, interpersonal tensions.
Yeah, and I actually find that the alternative, right? The alternative to holacracy or similar systems, which there aren't any yet, is it's all about humans. And it has a funny way of actually being less beneficial for humans.
Yes.
It sounds very paradoxical, but that's true in my experience. And actually Elliot Jaques has already figured it out a long time ago, where he demonstrated that there's research into this that shows that whenever something goes wrong in an organization, there's unclarity. So 9 times out of 10, the problem is in the structure of the organization, not the people. And so unless you have made a differentiation between the structure of the organization on the one hand and the people on the other hand, if you haven't made that distinction yet, then the structure, the organization is made of people. So who gets the blame? Well, people. And when you make that distinction, you can now say, okay, so I want to change something. I don't want to change what you're doing. I want to change the role, the expectation.
Right.
That's actually when the organization is not made of people, then it's made of role.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's a
and how to
shift. Yeah.
What's your approach when you try, because there's also something also true, as much as you're differentiating the role from the soul and everything, and I'm getting in trouble by the fact that I think it was Chris Cohen or whoever that's always talking about separating and not differentiating, and that's so simple and so simple to, I understand the difference, as now you just said it and made a lot of sense. It's, we're differentiating, we're not separating, because you can't really separate it. You cannot pretend it, because even when you're energized in a role, you're coming in with your humanity. You're not a robot. Even if you would like to do that, it's impossible to separate it. So what would be your take to say that as much as you are differentiating, the role will be fueled with your gas, will be fueled with your energy, and each person brings in a different energy for a role, so that it's like a car that's using a different, or running on different fuels. How
another image might be, okay, maybe a role is like a uniform, but everybody wears it differently in a way. So if you wear the same uniform, and then how you embody that, I mean, you bring your own, you leave your own mark, I think. Which is also nice in a way.
Yes, it's like, so when you have a play, it does make a difference who plays the role of
Juliet.
It's still the same role, but it's different.
That's it. So you're playing a part. It's just that you could there are different levels of playing and acting. So I could do Shakespeare's probably in a play, but I'll suck. But if you go a professional actor or somebody else, they'll have a different energy, as much as the role has the same objective or has the same script.
Yeah,
the analogy is limited, of course.
And you bring your whole skill set into your whole sensorium, etc. So of course you can embody the same general function in a very kindergarten way, or in a like excel at a master's level or whatever. Any given skill and function that is needed. But it still kind of is under the same role description in a way.
Yeah, and I guess holacracy might seem dehumanizing when people in a meeting that the thing is that the meeting structure of Holacracy kind of pushes back your personal emotions about things deliberately. And so if an organization doesn't offer you another pathway to process that, then I kind of get that that sucks.
That's right, yeah.
Because every time you show up in a meeting, it pushes back on you. And you don't have any way to process that those other real tensions that are absolutely real, your personal stuff, the interpersonal stuff, and there's nowhere to go. And if that's the situation, yeah, then that sucks, absolutely.
But then again, it's a choice to feel like a victim of that. You can do something about it. You can, make a.
You can.
What I always like is if you're very efficient in tactical meetings, you actually create time that you could hang out and discuss interpersonal topics. If you're not wasting so much time with inefficient meetings, instead do something like a tactical, then you win time that you could use very conscious. You could do conscious work and then make a context shift and make conscious hanging out and whatever relationship building, etc. And that can be kind of mutually enhancing instead of muddling both and then complaining about inefficient work and inefficient kind of relationship building or whatever. So instead you can kind of benefit by highlighting the context you're in.
Yeah, because that's the alternative to Holacracy in my experience. If you don't use any of that, what often happens is that then you have employees who spend so much of their time around the coffee machine complaining around management, kind of forming support groups. Actually, I've seen that forming support groups just to cope with all the bullshit. Yeah,
and I like the David Allen quote that is always used to not was it about love and affection, to use love and affection to get work done is kind of a like
to lean on relationship to get work done is
exactly that's an
abuse of love and affection, something along those lines.
Yes, so if you really use if you lean on the explicit expectations that has been created by the process, by the rules, then you don't have to be kind just to get work done or butter each other up or all these silly all the things that's or like how do you say grease the wheels or talking up to people
is the thing. You don't have to use people anymore to get what you need. And that's no. And then say, well, that's dehumanizing. Okay.
Interesting, huh? Interesting. Yeah. Really interesting. In Holacracy, we don't have to use people anymore and manipulate them. I think that's really dehumanizing to get work done.
Isn't it?
Yeah, if you really think about it, it's absurd. It's really absurd.
Yeah.
I like that. I think I need that, and I'm looking for that as we're speaking. And I can't really this specific phrase by David Allen.
Using a relationship, or it's in something like that. Anyway.
Oh yeah, I'll look for that.
We'll find it. Ask next time you see Brian or Rebecca or any one of these, they will gladly provide the quote for you. They have, I think it's somewhere in their presentations somewhere. I think I've seen it in H1 presentations.
Yeah, but this is crucial, and most of the time this is the main weapon that anti-holacracy people use. Especially this guy Jürgen Appel, the guy who is into management, 3.0 or whatever. He's completely against holacracy and completely misunderstanding what the whole point is. But again, can we actually complain that they're not nailing it, or we're not being clear enough to not that they don't have their own intention or their own agenda on this, but I think it's always a good idea to look inside of us and see how are we fucking up. this part? You know, what do we have to do with all of this? Anyways.
Yeah. I mean, what I hear is also it's so many rules, it's so many rules and so on. And that is kind of what people shy away from instinctively. We see this like 30 pages of rules or whatever, the Constitution. And then it's really important to remind people that, you know, you're following rules all the time without ever making them explicit. And, you know, if, for example, you're following the rules of grammar right now in this moment, you couldn't even spell them out, but you feel them. You feel when you're off. In the same way, you can develop a relationship to holacracy practice where you feel when you're off and you naturally kind of flow with the system without being able to recite the Constitution or stuff like that. Or you play soccer without reading the FIFA manual.
Yeah.
Because you just then you take the ball in the hand and somebody says no, that's forbidden, and so on. And then you learn those things, those boundaries of the system implicitly, and you pick it up, and you gradually can become more and more routine in that. And that's the same. The relationship is the same as in holacracy, unless you want to be a coach or something where you would have to have some knowledge about the rules so you can explain it to other people. But other than that, if you're just practicing it, the reliance on the rules is minimal. The facilitator has to keep them in mind for you, doing a service for you, so you can just rely on a process and throw anything in that you need and see where it leads you, right?
Yep.
So you can lean on it. You can lean on the rules. It's there. And if you want to have it explicit, you can look it up. Unlike other systems which are opaque, where you never have the chance of figuring out who owes whom a favor and whatever. Where the formal structure does not match the actual structure. What people are doing and what is like the boxes in the org chart. They don't line up and they're kind of out of sync already. It's opaque. And what's opaque, you cannot really change.
Right.
You cannot propose to change. Holacracy, it's at least, if you feel it's out of sync, the formal structure and what's really working and what is required, okay, cool. Then you can take steps to close that gap and make that, make it current again. There's pathways, but there's no pathways in the other structure in the classical hierarchy. If it's opaque, if it's implicit, you cannot act upon it. You just have to suffer. You have to suffer it, and then it makes you a victim and so on.
Right.
And that isn't that inhumane?
Yeah. No, but again, this is kind of the toolbox the type of tool that I need in my toolbox, because there has been some thought put onto this, and I don't have to reinvent the wheel for this matter, and that's why I think it's good. And I'm going to look for that phrase. I think it sums up pretty good on how it's humanizing, right? Outside of Brian's article. So yep. All right.
Anything else? Other topics? Your chance. So yeah, we could talk about the changes in the ecosystem if you're interested. I was just thinking so Holacracy 1 is being split up into Glassfrog, the foundation, and the coach, the consulting branch. And they're thinking about restructuring the licensing. So to make the license or not a precondition for selling holacracy services anymore, but only as a quality marker. So you So that's kind of to open the market in a way, or to create more, to liberalize it in a way, and let the market figure out which provider is doing valuable work in the world. And so that's a new strategy, because they say it hasn't prevented misunderstandings from about holacracy to be propagated anyway. So anyway, I don't know how I should feel about this. I know how you feel about this, Jonah.
Well, I'm pretty much new to everything. I wanted to step in once this was sorted out, but for my own benefit, I pushed the gas pedal, because I want to rely on the media outlet that Holacracy One can pull on me, by saying that I'm the first certificated coach in Latin America. As much as it might not mean anything, that kind of endorsement for me, it's going to be really useful. And after all, I don't know, there's nothing really concrete that I can react upon. It's just ideas, and so I'm still kind of hesitating to see what happens. And I really like the idea of becoming a DAO, and that I really like. That I think it's really exciting to have shared benefit, and have an investment on the community itself. So we all pull together. I like that approach. I think it's also kind of a striking in the key of the things of the type of world that I want to see. So I like it. And still not sure what's gonna look like. The fact that they're going to have markers for assessing the quality of the coaches, I think it's good. But I don't know, I still don't have a definite opinion about this. How do you feel about this, by the way, Dennis?
Yeah, this is double-edged sword in a way, or it's ambivalent, because of course, you and I, or others that have been gone through the trouble of licensing, kind of invested a lot of time, money to do so, and now it's like, okay, it's a free-for-all. So that feels weird. So I don't know, but I also know what I learned through the process, and that is valuable still. And I think it's gonna be a quality differentiator, but of course not for I mean, I think that a lot of unprofessional services might be provided, and then people walk away with a wrong understanding of what they did was holacracy, which in effect it wasn't, and it was watered down and was shit.
But that happens us now. So they just want to make money out of it.
Yeah, but it's not. Yeah.
Well, you don't have to deal with the restrictions of the licensing program anymore, which to me were pretty limiting. That's how I felt about it when Evolution@Work at the time wanted to be a provider, and then you had to, you can only do it in this region of the world, and you can only do it in this, and you have to there's a revenue share that didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So how about that? How does that feel to you, not having those restrictions in place anymore, or maybe you didn't experience them as restrictions at all? That's also possible.
Yeah, sure. I did experience a lot of the restriction side of it, especially also with also the stuff like the habit program, that it could only be sourced from Glassfrog, but clients preferred maybe Hola Spirit, and that was a problem. And then we had to run after a translated version of the habit program, and it wasn't provided by Holacracy One, etc. Blah blah blah. So this was another hassle, and of course, 15% of the margin is substantial, and but I think the quality sign or seal is I think still useful, and it probably will be even more useful now if more people crowd the market. Maybe it does matter, and people do look up licensed providers on Holacracy One's page. I mean, there have been leads forwarded by Holacracy One. It's not zero. Really don't know. And the whole tokenization thing, it's I think it doesn't sound so far out for me, but it will probably sound very far out for a lot of people.
It seems to me there are two elements. One is licensing and one is being certified, which is that there's somebody who certifies you as says, yeah, this is good. It's like with an accountant, you have at least well, in many countries you have a certified accountant, and just people who call themselves accountant, and well, it's your bet, really. And I would go for a certified one based on my
well, I mean, for the certification, we would still have to, I think, pay the whatever percentage.
Well, here's the thing: it doesn't have to be Holacracy One to do the certification. It doesn't have to be.
No, it could be.
There could be you also. Actually, I think as entrepreneurs that you can issue certificated coaches or something.
Well, we already did some our first assessment beginning of last year, the first German assessment, the German language. So we certified somebody through our program. We also did a coach training in German. So we're moving along this, and we would do another one in planning one actually. So just before this call, we planned this.
So there's a chance here to make this actually more distributed.
Yes.
What does being certified mean? So is Holacracy One no longer doing it? Great. And so how can you do certification in a distributed way so that it still means something?
Yeah.
Right.
And it might be the foundation job to do so, or organize that kind of work to happen.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the providers that are doing this like us, and then just there's a central registry at the foundation where it's kind of reported to who is certified or not, or whatever.
Yeah, I think I just want to add something here. My feeling is that it's not going to remove the wings of the already coaches, certified coaches, but it's going to open up the door for a lower entry door for stuff that it's already happening. So it's kind of formalizing ongoing activity, you know, and giving them a role and to formalize it.
Maybe now that those people would even now can actually advertise saying we are implementing, or we're helping you implement Holacracy, and then bring it into discourse a little broader, to say, because they don't have to feel the legal constraint or the legal danger of doing so, like advertising the name or the brand, because they know it's they can.
And I see that this is open up the scaling possibility, where it's still so niche that it's driving me crazy. You know, after 16 years, the Holacracy is so niche, it's just driving me crazy. So I think this is it's a twofold thing. One is that to get to know Holacracy a little bit more widely, which is really good, and that's by allowing lower entry levels of delivery, and accepting that not everybody's going to be there, but at least the word might be out there, as much as that could also produce some damage, I guess. And at the same time, I think they want to get more revenue, and I think it makes sense as well. I mean, that's why they also bringing up this new figure that if you have a software that it's Holacracy compatible, you also have to pay. So either way, they want to squish I guess the money out of the brand and the framework. So yeah, I don't know. I'm happy that things are changing, because otherwise, I in my eyes at least, I'm not the expert on this. I didn't see anything that would make me think that this is going somewhere bigger, or it was becoming more scalable. So I don't know. I'm happy to see and to try out. I think it's about trying out.
Yeah, I mean, the narrative is that there's a phase shift now, and the first years were spent building this and stabilizing it in the world and setting a standard and so on, and now it's time to open up and broaden and make it accessible for more people and bring in, I guess, if these consultants walk out there and, or, you know, present themselves in the world or present on this and sell services around this, chances are that it's going to be more, it's more out there, and maybe create more demand also for more professional services. We'll see how that works. And and then there's the other this other thing, the tokenization idea to make the community shareholders, so to speak, of the whole brand, and like the Ethereum community or something like that. And so everybody's cheering for Luxy and driving up the price of the tokens. We'll see about that. I think there's a big skepticism around crypto. I think if you look at the crypto market, if you follow this, it's been a shit show the last year, but other times may come to again, like for crypto also.
But it's not getting away. The crypto's not getting away, and anytime soon, I guess. And just to add a piece of information here, I remember that Brian was saying that one of the motivations for him to separate the foundation from the consulting enterprise was that he wanted to approach leaders and other type of big fishes, and he couldn't have done that being the CEO of a company. He needed to be outside of the commercial interest of Holacracy by itself. So in his speech, at least, that's what he was saying. So being kind of a president of a foundation, it's different than being the CEO of a company that makes money out of the promotion that he's doing. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add. And yeah.
Cool.
Right.
So it feels like a wrap for me. So why don't we close the checkout round? Is that good for you? Or do anybody else have any quick chicken round?
The chicken round.
Chicken. Yeah, good for me.
Okay, works for you. So we haven't heard for a while from Keith. So, what's your checkout statement? How do you fix it?
I feel good. As I mentioned, I'm learning mood as well in this call here, and I have 2 articles to read. Thanks for sharing it. And I think this is a very useful discussions. I really learned a lot, and there are much more for me to learn. But of course, I just to update you, actually, I have a meeting. I will be meeting Christina end of the month to discuss how we can implement this in my organizations, and how I should learn from others as well. So hopefully in February I can update you more.
Awesome. Cool. Jonah.
Yeah, happy to be here, and completely invading with some more complex stuff about Holacracy. So not so much about implementing it, but the framework itself and the selling of it. And but I'm taking this this phrase that you said, Dennis, that I think it was really obvious and it was out there, but I didn't see it until you said it. It was that it's differentiating and not separating. And still, what I got from this first time that I read it was that it was separating, and it's not possible. It's, even if you want to do it, it's not possible to separate the soul from the role, and imagine it as a part of a play that different people can actually enact. And that helps me a lot to find better ways to explain this over as well. So I'm happy for that. I'm taking a lot of good notes here, and I'm happy to see you guys here. And I hope to see more people from outside of this circle now. And the next time that we're meeting, maybe people from Athena. We'll see.
Cool. Peter.
Yeah, it was great hanging out here. And actually, to join up Jonah's point, but I was thinking as well, thinking of all the people who are actually a member of this platform and missing out on all this great stuff. So I want to at least check in with them and see, because probably people who are not like a member of this guild don't see the announcements either. I think so. That, I don't know if that plays a role. So I want to point that out to people and invite them. Hey, there's all this cool stuff going on. And maybe if the times don't work for them, but I want to hear. I want to hear from them in that case. So I'm gonna put some bit of energy into that. And thanks, Dennis. This was awesome. And like I said, I like more people to be able to benefit from this.
Yeah, thanks. My sense is that also there was a very lively discussion. It was really exciting topics and kind of a bit of geeking out also on Holacracy, and I enjoy that very much. So I like that, and I think, yeah, I mean, I will upload the video again, so maybe people can get a taste if they just you know, check out a few minutes of our discussions, that maybe that's worthwhile coming. I hope so, and if there's anything we can do to make it more visible, let's do it. Yeah, it's just really useful, and looking forward to the next installment. Actually, there's I already posted it on
I see you here.
on the platform. So RSVP and see you next time.
Oh,
See you.
Dennis, the times for the next one, the February one, is midnight. So you might want to change that to 2 p.m.
Oh yes, I will. Thank you.
All right, cool.
I really appreciate that.
Stop recording here.